This is Cecil Allen Moore. This is American Outlaw Garage. Today I've been working on the wiring harness of my LS swap into my square body GM. I've been bunching up the wires and connectors and trying to get everything kind of separated so it's not such a big huge job all at one time. We've got all the little connectors and pigtails and stuff separated and tied off and labeled up right to where it'll all go back together a little easier than just trying to tackle everything all at one time. Let me show you what we're looking at. What you're looking at here are the wiring harness pigtails for the computer, or the plugs, or whatever you want to call them. You can see all the pin numbers on the back. I think I've got this one upside down. This is the blue connector. You can see the pin numbers on the back. See all those numbers. There's 2 rows. 1 through 20, 21 through 40, 41 through 60, 61 through 80, and it's the same way on the red connector. So this is the red, this is the blue. I don't have the blue one separated out yet. I've just got the wires kind of all stretched out there. But on this red one here, and I've marked these, the secondary VSS sensor for the 4080. You can see there's no pins in those. These are super easy to take out. I'll show you how to take them out later. The wires that you don't need you can remove very easily. You can see some of those have been taken out. Some of them never had anything in them before. 33, 34 had wires, and I took those out, as well as number 60 there at the bottom. You can kind of see that. Well, what I've done is I went through and referenced my sheet for my pinouts that I got off of lt1swap.com. They've got an amazing trove of information on there that you should absolutely check out if you're going to be doing one of these LS swaps or any of the other swaps they have listed. They've done all the work for you, tracing down the wire colors and the pinouts. But what you see here, see, I've got it flipped over to the red connector, and some of this is a little bit hard to read, but you know, it starts at pin number 1. So pin number 1 on the red connector, you can see, is the black and white wire, and it goes to the PCM ground. Look here, pin number 1, black and white wire, that's your PCM ground. I've got it pulled apart and labeled. That's 1, and R is for red. And I've got them labeled PCM ground. Everything here is labeled out. You know, this is that's my cruise control wire right there. That'll trigger the cruise if I want to go with the cruise. Anyway, all the yellow highlights are wires you do not need, and I've kind of got a little system going here. This is the things you need, the pluses. The dots are transmission wires, those little dots. My printer was out of colored ink, so I had to print black and white and just highlight it myself and do a little bit of a search. But you can see it's got the same thing for the blue C1 connector right here. Same deal, pins, got your pin numbers, corresponding wires, colors, whatever. Super duper simple to keep track of if you do it like this. You know what I've done is I've bunched my wires together and tied them off so I know what they go to. This is the blue connector. I mean this is the red connector. And I'll do the same for the blue connector. Cool pack. This is the wires, so I know all of those wires that come from everything else. Up here, I've separated all of these wires. There's the cool pack. You can see those wires at the ends. I have them all labeled. Remember all those little pigtails that were up on the cowl? I've got those all connected now, and I've got them all separated and ready to roll. All of my sensors, I've labeled them at both ends. That's the map sensor. I don't have this one plugged in, but it goes back in the back of the intake to the knock sensors. Same deal on everything else. IAC, TPS. This is my alternator plug here. I've got it all labeled out. Coolant temperature sensor. And I'm starting to get a little bit of a hold on my wiring harness now. What that'll do when I'm done with it, these will go underneath the intake and run to the back side. Everything will be nice, everything will be hidden, tied together, and we're going to go straight down the back here onto the firewall. And you can't really see very well, but on the back of the firewall to where the frame rail comes in at, I'm going to run my loom alongside the frame rail. There'll be plenty far enough from the headers so the heat doesn't get to the wire loom or anything like that. We're going to run it straight down this frame rail onto this area here, and I'm going to mount my computer right here. This is my mass airflow and my idle, my air temperature sensor wiring and harness, and it'll go over there so my intake hose can come out here, and my mass airflow will go over there, kind of in that neighborhood where that pigtail is, and make more sense. I've got a few more sensors to run. Right now I've got to run these two O2 sensors. These are my upper O2 sensors. For the they'll run into the collectors. I've got collectors for it and everything. And this is my crank sensor that goes up there into, or this is the crank. These aren't sensors. These are pigtails that plug into the sensors. It goes back behind the header, like I was saying in the last series that I was doing. Behind the starter is where your crank sensor goes. Plugs in there, runs all nice and neat. Comes on the inside of this frame rail. It'll run the oil pan over to the frame rail. Come in like this and stay hidden until it reaches into the harness over there and runs back into the computer. We'll be putting wire loom on these wires to keep them all nice and protected from heat and dirt and debris and all that other good stuff. So stay tuned and we'll show you some more. As I was telling you before, I've marked all of these wires. See, they're all separated in bunches going to each sensor or each bank of injectors, or whatever they are. They're all separated, so I know they go to the same thing. Not real hard to trace it down. This is the driver's bank 4 injector. The rule of thumb on these things is red goes to a constant power source, and the pink wires usually go to a 12 volt ignition source, like a keyed ignition. So when you turn your key on, these pink wires, unless they've got a black stripe on them, that'd be a whole different thing. These pink wires, key on powers these up. That gets the injector ready to run. The other injector wires go to the pinouts on the computer, and it tells that injector when to fire based on what position your crank and camshaft are at. So next up, we'll be getting all these lined up and into the correct pins. Be getting the pin out right after I do the blue side of the connector, the blue connector for the computer. After I label these and get these all separated, know what they're going to, that's when we'll start tying it all together and trimming it up or lengthening it or whatever it is it takes to get it nice and neat down to our mounting position for our computer. Another thing I have to do is build my transmission pigtail for my 4L80. The 4L80E uses 2 VSS sensors instead of just the one, and I'm using the early style transmission, so it's out of a 95. So some of the wires aren't the same color on the factory transmission harness that I cut out. So I'm using the 4L60E that goes with this computer. I'm using the 4L60E harness for the transmission. I've got to change some of these little pins right here, and a couple of those pins will go to the second VSS sensor, speed sensor, vehicle speed sensor. A couple of those pins will go on this. These wires here will connect, and it should run out just like we want it. Hey, thank y'all for watching. I appreciate you watching. Thank you for joining me on this journey. This LS swap stuff can really be applied to just about anything you want it to. Any kind of Chevrolet that had a V8 in it at all will bolt, these same mounts will bolt this engine directly in that same vehicle. Anything that has a small block Chevrolet or a big block Chevrolet, it'll work. And it'll work pretty easy with this setup. So I don't know exactly how easy, but that's something for you to check out. All the wiring will be the same on no matter whatever you're putting it in. This whole wiring harness, the pin out and all that stuff, all of these sensor wires go to the same place on this computer no matter what. When we come back, all of these wires are going to be loomed out. They're all going to be tied off, and they're all going to be tied into the computer, and the computer is going to be mounted on the radiator panel here on the inside, and we'll proceed to the next step. Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, share it, comment, like it, whatever. Thanks. This is Cecil Allen Moore, American Outlaw Garage.